Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being with us today. And we broadcast 2 hours from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains, right from the farm where we raise black Angus cows. And if you'd like to call us, I'll give you the number. We'll pay for the call, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. And if you'd like to listen, now or later, 605-477-3249, 605-477-3249. And class, I was thinking this morning and last night, if I had to prepare an experience profile, if I had to prepare a vitae, if I had to prepare a resume, and it had to be like a couple words, what would those words be? And I came to the conclusion that the 2 words that I'm going to use to describe if I had to apply for a job and I could only use 2 words, what would they be? I realized that those 2 words apply to every single one of our instructors, including my dear friend who you're going to hear from in just a couple seconds. And those 2 words are, number 1, student. I'm a student. Number 2, I'm a teacher. Period. That's it. Those are the 2 words that I would use. You're going to hear from a senior USA Prepares instructor for the next 2 hours. His name is Mike Ma. He's a teacher. He's a student. He wants to know more about everything, and he wants to share with you what he's learned. Now, if you think about SWAT teams, and what they do, and you've seen them on television, you've seen them in the news. Do you ever ask yourself, who trains SWAT teams? Who helps them learn the tactics, strategies? Mike Ma. Welcome, Mike Ma.
Good morning, Vincent. Good morning.
Well, do you have a reaction to what I said about all of us, every single one of us being a teacher and a student? I mean, you've met a whole bunch of the USA Prepares instructors in person over the years. You've met them. You've spent time with them one-on-one. Would you say that that's accurate, that we are students and teachers, every single one of us? Dr. Shealy, John Regan, Rich Scheben, Rick Miller, the list goes on and on.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. The thirst for knowledge, you can see it in every one of them. And what makes the difference is, just like you say, they share that knowledge. And in other words, they're a teacher. But they don't look at it as teaching because they're just so involved in learning, and they get so excited that they've learned something. To them, it's something new, and so then they want to share it. And I've seen that in every one of the instructors that you have there.
Every single one. Every single one. So, Mike, today, we spent 3 classes learning about the 3-man militia. And I have a comment about that before we get started. And it's germane to current events. Hurricane Michael pummeled Florida. Okay? It pummeled the Florida Panhandle. When I first saw the images on the internet of the destruction, it reminded me of August 6th, 1945. The day the United States of America unleashed an atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan. That atomic bomb flattened, destroyed, pummeled everything in the area. I mean, it just wiped it clean. And when I looked at the images of Hurricane Michael, I saw the same thing. Everything was flattened. Today's headlines on Drudge Report said, nature's nuke. They came up with the same thing. The devastation was horrific. Currently, 1,300,000 people are without electricity. Now, what does that have to do with what we're going to talk about today, the three-man militia? Class, before Hurricane Michael, everything was normal. Everything was fine. You could turn on the faucet, get water. You could turn on the electric light switch, and you'd have electricity. Everything was normal. You go to the gas station. Well, right now, gas stations are wiped clean, flattened, gone. The electricity, there's no switch. There's no wall for the switch. There's no house for the wall. There are no power poles. It is absolutely flattened. So, what does that mean to us? That means you need to learn, in my opinion. I'm not telling anybody what to do, but I am saying I think you should consider learning everything you can about everything you need to know about survival and preparedness. Because the day before Hurricane Michael, everything was fine. During Hurricane Michael, it was terrifying. After Hurricane Michael, just look at those images. People are standing, officials, people in costumes, they're standing with their hands on their hips. All grouped together, standing with their hands on their hips. Look, wow, this is unbelievable. What are we going to do? Okay, these are the people that are going to allegedly help you if you're in harm's way or had been. I was at Joplin the day after the hurricane, the day after the storm. It was horrific. It was the same thing, a little bit smaller, but it was the same thing. It looked like a lawnmower had just gone over the entire area and destroyed and flattened everything. I saw it. I saw it firsthand. I saw roofs ripped off. I saw garages, or I saw the concrete pad where a garage was, and now there's just a concrete pad. Literally, nothing else. Just, it looks like somebody just poured that concrete pad and is thinking about, putting a basketball goal up. There's nothing in its way. Nothing. Just the concrete pad. That's what the image of the panhandle of Florida where this monstrous storm came through. So, word to the wise, form your own three-man militia and learn everything you can. And a three-man militia is a group of people. It can be guys, all guys. It can be all girls. It can be a combination. No rules. Just get three people together and start learning things. Gardening, auto mechanics, roofing, construction, plumbing, electricity, maybe even learning how to build a lagoon or a septic system, or learning how to drive a backhoe or operate a backhoe, or changing your oil, or building a road, or cutting down firewood. Doesn't matter. Or cooking. Cooking for a get-together. Get three people together and work together. You'll build that team. Mike, am I saying this right?
You're absolutely correct. I used to, when I lived down in Guatemala, I lived down there for 14 years, and I used to go after hurricanes, and I would come in after the hurricane, normally a day, maybe two. There was no roads, so and I was on a motorcycle, so it was a little easier to get around. But anyway, one thing that I learned is, just like you said, it's a normal day, and then all of a sudden their lives are it's a whole other world. And they, down there, because the weather is so nice all the time, they don't really prepare. So they just do constantly the same things over and over again, and it's a laid-back lifestyle. So when something that bad comes along, they're completely dependent on the government. And you can tell because, like I say, they got diseases. They don't have food. They don't have shelter. The good thing is it's not bad weather, but still it's rainy, and you've got wounds that need to be taken care of, and they don't have the people to do it. And that's where all the disease just starts going. And then once it starts, then it's like a pandemic. It's local, but it's there. I mean, the funguses, it's nasty. And like I say, people don't think about it. They don't do their homework. They don't have the stuff to do what they need to do. And what I do is I come in and I get the people together, have them start working together. And really that's all it is like you said, the three-man militias. And I do it normally in 3 people because they can help each other. Somebody can take a nap while the other 2 are doing whatever they got to do, and they're working together, and they can work with other 3-man groups. And they can do everything. And the only thing they're lacking is the equipment. And but that's why they do a lot of stuff by hand down there. But they just need to be organized and get going. But people go into shock when stuff like that happens. And they're just taking care of themselves, and they don't understand how you can't just take care of yourself. You have to work together. And even the 3, they have to work with others. You're not going to get through stuff like that on your own or working with a small group only. You got to be ready because help will come, especially here in the United States. Like I say, this is a moral country. And even down there, you can see there's supplies and stuff coming from the United States. So there will be help, but you've got to be able to help yourself. You can't just sit back and expect people to take care of it for you.
Mike Ma, 3-man militia. And maybe when the authorities hear us talking about it, I know they're listening. They're thinking, we're going to be doing something pretty dangerous. No, that's not it at all. We're going to help you help yourselves to do everything. And sometimes it takes more than one person. Sometimes it takes 3. Okay, class. It used to be that farmers would employ 3-man militias a lot. So, for example, during hay season, one guy would have the tractor, one guy would have a hay rake, one guy would have a hay baler, one guy would have the hay mower, and they'd all work together. They'd do one guy's field and the next guy's field and the next guy's field, and they did it without owning everything. They didn't have to own everything because they all worked together. And it was in everybody's best interest to work together. Well, we've gotten away from that. Okay? And an example of, a little 3-man militia was 2 men yesterday. I was teaching a little class here at the forum. We needed to bleed the brakes on a truck. And to bleed the brakes, you have one person in the vehicle pushing down on the brake pedal. Is called pumping it up. So you push down on the brake pedal, you lift it up. You push down, lift up, push down, lift up, push down. So pump it up, pump it up, pump it up, hold it. Hold it means you keep pressure on the brake pedal, and then somebody under the vehicle releases the brake fluid out of a bleeder valve. And the idea is to remove the air. Well, I was talking to this young guy, and I said, have you ever bled brakes before? I said, yeah, but I don't know. I said, well, let me show you the way I do it. And then we put him in the car, and I said, okay, let me show you, pump it up. And I explained what that meant. I explained what I meant by hold it. I said, don't let it go all the way to the floor, okay? And so within probably half an hour to an hour, we got all of the brakes bled the way I do it. Now, I do it a little differently from, others. So there are, different ways of doing it. But now I've shared my style of doing it, the way I've done it for, 50 years. So that's just one little example of a three-man militia. Okay? They would happen to be two men. Now, next time, and it's really only a two-person job. Now, if we had three people, I would have had the bleeder valves were rusted in place. I would have had another person take off the wheels while we were bleeding the brakes to get it done faster. Then it would have been a three-man militia. So yes, you need more than one person. So if you're framing a wall, it sure is nice to have someone at the other end of that board, or that 2x4, 6, or 2x8. It sure would be nice to have somebody at the other end, keeping things square and level and plumb and holding it and lifting it and carrying it and nailing it. Yes, absolutely. It's impossible to build a barn by yourself, or darn near impossible. But with a few extra helpers, wow. Many hands make light work, as they say. Mike?
And the good thing is you have to remember, and it's opened up to the young, and it can't hardly be too young, and like I say, the old, and everything in the middle. Because like I say, the older ones are teaching what they know. And a lot of this stuff you're not going to learn in class. These are things you have to get out and you have to do. And it's much more fun. And when you're older, when you're in the middle, you think you can do everything. And you can. But eventually you start getting older. And then you have to share what you know with others to get things done. Here I'm on a ranch also. And there's two of us old guys, and it takes both of us to do what a young man could do. So, but like I say, then we're always looking for young people to get involved. And when somebody young comes along and they're interested in doing something, boy, we find things. And they're always learning. They're always learning. And between me and my friend, we're not the same either. So we're learning from each other. We take turns being the boss because the boss knows a little more than what the other one does on the project that you're working on. And it just changes back and forth, or, depending on what it is we're getting involved in. And there's no limit. We can do anything. And like I say, we did, normally we do gardening. We have a real garden. This year we come up with flowers. So everybody got tired of all the harvest we had, trying to pick everything. It would have been nice if we had a young person that could get out there and dig around and get all that stuff. So then that's why we got lazy this year and put up flowers instead of a real producing garden. But like I say, we're always going from one project to another project. And there's nothing that we can't do. And we keep looking for things to get involved in and do. And even if we don't know about it, it's fun learning about it. And that's what we work on all the time.
Let's talk about how important is it to learn how to ride a motorcycle. I think it's pretty important. I'll share a little story about that when we come back. Mike Ma, NoStressMike.com. Mike Ma's with us. NoStressMike.com is all over the YouTube. So if you want to learn more about Mike Ma, just go to YouTube and type in Mike, M-I-K-E, space M-A-H. That's his real name. Just like my name is Vincent Finelli. I use my real name as well. Mike, I wanted all of our children to learn how to ride a motorcycle. And I'm not talking about necessarily on the road, but I am talking about I wanted them to have the skills. I wanted them to learn about traction. I wanted them to learn about the dangers. I want them to learn about braking and steering and how to ride properly and safely. And prepare them should they ever need to ride a motorcycle at any point in time. So one of our children was 4 years old. And many people, soccer moms will probably be aghast at what I'm going to say, but just listen up and maybe they'll learn something. So our son was 4 years old, and I found a used Honda Z50, 50cc motorcycle. It had a 3-speed transmission, and it had hand brakes, foot brakes. And it was just little, but it was a motorcycle, and kind of like a dirt bike. And it was, I think, $300 with the helmet used. So we bought that. And I taught my son how to ride a motorcycle. We had a long driveway. It was on the farm. And he would sit on it with the engine off. And then I said, well, let's start it up. I showed him how to kickstart it, and he could kickstart it. And then he kind of liked the idea of, listening to the engine roar, with using the throttle a little bit, but not moving, just, with his feet on the ground, just in one place, just hum, hum, hum. Kind of thought that was neat. And then I said, well, you ready to ride it? Well, not really. So we pushed it up the driveway hill, and he coasted all the way down. He thought that was the coolest thing. So then he'd push it all the way back up the hill and coast all the way down. Then pretty soon he got kind of tired of pushing it up the hill. And I said, well, you don't have to push it up the hill. You can ride it up the hill. So I showed him how to do that. And then that thing got about 110 miles on a gallon of gas. And he used a whole gallon of gas that day. He just went everywhere. There was no stopping him. And so that was the first motorcycle that he ever rode. So we found motorcycles for all of our children. They all had them. They rode them all over the farm. They were all used. They were all very good values. And ultimately, he outgrew that motorcycle. And we sold it. And, you can do that. You can buy them used if you pay the right price. Keep them in good shape. Don't leave them outside and get rained on. And then sell them and break even. What a great deal. Mike, your thoughts?
Well, we did kind of the same thing, but we used a three-wheeler, and that was the motorized three-wheeler, and boy, that thing was dangerous. but I say they never went fast enough, and then I say they just had fun with it, and like you said, they outgrew it really quick. Once they understood the mechanism itself on how to make it change the gears, to stop, stuff like that, and then we were able to go into the motorcycles. But I say all of that is really what you're doing is you're teaching them personal responsibility, because definitely you are not in charge when they get on some wheels, and they have nobody to cry to. It's all theirs, and they realize it.
Right.
And really, that's really the best thing for teaching stuff like that, because you can go into shooting, and that's what we did anyway, shooting right after that. Once they understood the idea of responsibility, well, then I gave them a single-shot 22, and we did the same thing with the shooting. It just went on. They just outgrew it, and when they outgrow it, that means they've taken the personal responsibility, and there's no end to it. And then, like I say, I stopped riding a motorcycle. But like I say, I rode 60,000 miles. Let's see, from 2003 to 2015, and on a motorcycle, going from Panama, Central America, to Canada. And I mean, it's a skill that you learn, and it's better to learn it when you're young, and because it gives you the fortitude to get through whatever kind of situations you find yourself getting into. But yeah, motorcycling is a good thing when you're young. I like it better, like what you were saying, on the ranch. All of my serious accidents were not on the ranch, I'll put it that way. And they were all when I was younger too, but it happens, and that's why it's better to learn it. And now you've learned it, and now you can go on with life without taking that with you. So, but yeah, motorcycling is more than just riding the motorcycle. It's what do you get out of it personally.
Okay, so here's an example, Mike. So all of our children know how to ride motorcycles. Everyone. I'm talking about with clutches, 5 speeds, and they're all dirt bikes. Everybody got a dirt bike. Not all at the same time. We had to find them used and fix them up, and so they all had them, and still do. Well, we had a flood here many years ago on the farm. We brought the motorcycles with us from Virginia, and they're all dirt bikes. One of them is a Honda 100. One of them is an RT 180, which is a Yamaha dirt bike, and another one is a TW 200 Yamaha. It's called Trail Wizard. It's not all that pleasant to ride, but it's something you can ride on the road and through trails. Got a big fat back tire. So everybody knows how to ride motorcycles here, including Mrs. Finelli, and she has one too. Well, we had a flood, and the flood there's so much water during this heavy rain that we had that we could not get out of the farm. The trucks, the water would have been, above the bottom of the door of the trucks, and I didn't want to ruin the transaxles, didn't want to ruin the transfer cases, didn't want to ruin the differentials, didn't want to ruin the wheel bearings, didn't want to ruin any of that on any of our vehicles. Well, so our son took out the RT-180, which is the Yamaha dirt bike, and he just hopped on it, and he just rode carefully through the water to find out what it was like all around us, to go out scouting, to figure out what was what. And could that happen? Is it happening in Florida? I would think that'd be a good thing to have in Florida, a dirt bike to figure out how bad it is. Mike, your comments on that?
Oh, yeah. And it was funny because when you're talking about that, explaining it, that's right. They're looking for, is the road still there? Because you see the water, but you don't know what's underneath the road. So, yeah, that's the way to get around and using it. And like you say, all types of weather and minimal maintenance, especially when you keep it in the garage or someplace out of the weather, and then use it when you need it. So, yeah, it'll be very good, very good.
Yeah, and I'm talking about a dirt bike. I'm talking about maybe an enduro type motorcycle, which would be street and dirt bike, high ground clearance. Mike, would you say that your motorcycle was an enduro type, on-road, off-road?
Oh, yes. The last one I had was, it was a 650, and it was off-road and highway. It wasn't really good on the highway, but like I say, I was going from hurricane to hurricane, so I needed to get some highway riding, but I wanted to be able to get off-road, and it did very well, very well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, class, think about that. Now, if I put my tax preparer hat on, for me preparing farm taxes for the Internal Revenue Service or the state government corporation, what I would do is this something that I need on the farm? It is. Tax deduction. Simple as that. Now, if the IRS auditor wants to challenge me, he can come to the farm, or she can come to the farm, and I will be glad to show that person how this is a tax deduction. No problem. We use four-wheelers, we use motorcycles to check and maintain our farm all the time, because there are places that we can't get to with a four-wheeler. There are places we can't get to with a truck. There are places that we have to use a dirt bike. So those are skills that I suggest you consider learning safely, because it's easy to take a spill, have a crash, slip, slide with a motorcycle. And that is precisely why I taught our young children how to ride very early on, because I wanted them to know about traction. I wanted them to know about sliding and skidding. I did. I didn't want them to fall and get hurt, but I wanted them to know. And the next thing we did was our son, who was homeschooled, our youngest, believed in Santa Claus. Now, I don't know why we lied to him about Santa Claus, but I guess we got caught in that trap. And so up until he was 10 years old, he believed in Santa Claus. He put on his Santa Claus list, he wanted a Humvee. And I saw his list and I said, that's not going to happen. Because he told me it wasn't a remote control Humvee. He wanted a Humvee, a real one, and a military vehicle. And I said, no, it's not going to happen. But, maybe mom and dad can find a used Jeep that needs lots of work. And, maybe we can buy one of those for the farm, and you can work on it, and we'll work on it together, and I'll teach you some auto mechanics, and we'll get it running, and you can ride that around on the farm. So at 10 years old, our son was driving his Jeep. all over the farm. All over the farm at 10 years old. Now, some people would be aghast at that. Well, it really worked. So then all the children started driving the Jeep on the farm. All of them. And then when it snowed and there was ice, lots of ice, sheets of ice all over the fields, then we learned how to go into controlled skids and slides and drive through them. So we would intentionally spin out in that Jeep and be able to pull out without banging into anything. That's what we taught. Now, some people would say, that guy, meaning me, should be arrested for child endangerment. Didn't happen. We'll be right back. Class, just a point of information. The Internet is being updated, serviced, modified, software upgrades globally right now. And you may experience service interruptions. Now, I'm looking at a screen that is kind of a metering system, and it tells me how long it takes for my voice to get from Missouri, here at the farm, to network. Now, normally, when things are working right, and the Internet is running nicely, it takes 1/10 of 1 second for my voice to get to Genesis Communications Network. Right now, it is taking 2.5 seconds. So keep that in mind, Mike, as we go through this broadcast. It literally takes, from the time I start talking, over 2.5 seconds for you to hear what I'm saying in Oklahoma. Okay? So, because I can tell that it's taking 2.5 seconds to get from here to Minnesota, and then it goes from Minnesota to you. So it's even longer. And it's because the Internet is being modified over the next 48 hours globally. So this is not a United States thing. It's not a European thing. It's a global thing. And they say it's for our own good that they're doing this upgrade. So you may actually lose the Internet during the next 48 hours. And I want to let John know that should I lose the Internet here at the farm, I will call in immediately. And Mike, just please keep talking while I'm reconnecting. So I just want to let you know that this can happen, and you may experience it over the next 2 days. Mike, we were talking about this hurricane, Michael, and the 3-man militia.
Yes. I don't know. I'm really concerned about how that worked out because it was really, really big, or what I could see on the news anyway. And they're going to have, a lot of people thought, well, we're used to hurricanes, but it looks like it was a whole lot more than what they were expecting. And I'm not sure how it's going to work out in the long run on that. There was some other places I heard that they were cleaning up from other hurricanes and tornadoes, and this is just adding on to it already. So it's going to be something. But what I was wondering is, how is that going to apply when you were talking about the global changing of electronic stuff? How is that going to apply to we, the people? Uh-oh.
Well, we don't have all the information. That's the problem. No, I'm here. We still have that, that extra long delay between you and me. No, we don't know. They're not going to tell us exactly what they're doing. So it affects the domain name servers. And for example, the Internet runs on numbers. Okay. But we don't work so well with numbers. So there are servers all over the United States and actually all over the world that convert the words that we use, like usaprepares.com, to a specific numerical address. And so these domain name servers are being upgraded, modified, enhanced all over. And they have to talk to each other, and they have to share the list of conversion or the tables. And that's what's happening. So that much we believe to be true. But frankly, I don't know what I can believe anymore. If something officially comes out, I doubt it's true. I doubt they're telling us the truth. So back to the storm. This was a fast one. This came on really, really fast. Some people, who weren't paying attention had no idea. Normally, it's the storm's coming, it's 7 days out. And people go, yeah, you guys said that before. Not us. I mean, the government says this is pretty dangerous and be careful. And it's 7 days out, 6 days out, 5 days out. No, this storm came up really fast. And some people who weren't paying attention didn't even know it was coming. And bam, they got hit by it. And what we're saying is, you need to be prepared all the time for what? Well, for everything. And that's what we're here talking about today with Mike Ma. So, Mike, when we come back, let's talk about the possibility of you teaching a class here in Springfield, Missouri, what you'll be teaching, what we'll learn, and that would be the last Friday of the month here in October. So that's a possibility if we get between 10 and 25 people. So far, we don't have enough. And how do you get in touch with us? Instructor@usaprepares.com. So one of our instructors suggested that since Mike Ma's in town and before he goes to Thailand, wouldn't it be nice to have a meetup, a get-together, a seminar where Mike shares some more of his knowledge, things that we can't talk about on the radio with a small group of students and instructors. And we were thinking 10 to 25 people for this, and we would, take over the back room of a restaurant. We'd have dinner together, and Mike would teach us things that no one else could teach us. Now, there are plenty of imitators out there, but there's only one Mike Ma. How do I know? Because I've seen them. I've seen the imitators, but I've seen Mike Ma too, and Mike Ma is unique. There's only one Mike Ma. And he's my instructor. He teaches me. And so if you're interested, he's available for 1 day, 4 hours, dinner meeting, dinner included, probably be about $50, 50. All the proceeds go to paying for dinner, the room, and whatever's left, it goes to Mike Ma to cover his expenses to travel from one state to another to be here. And be the last weekend, or the last Friday of this month. I would be there, and I'd be glad to be there, and my only involvement is to be a facilitator, to volunteer to help out. That's the only involvement I would have, and I'm looking forward to it. But we need at least 10 people. We'd like to have 25. Mike, what will we learn?
Well,
this happens?
On the USA Prepares expos that you put on, I did a seminar on bribing for your life. And if you remember, it was standing room only. And you kept getting bigger rooms all the time. So, but that's for sure it's because that's the main reason why I'm able to get around and do the stuff that I do. And that's for sure going to be something that we're going to be talking about. But we're going to be in small groups, and that the reason for that is I want to take care of individual situations, because it's nice to talk in general about all this stuff, but the reality is we all have our own particular needs, and I would like to kind of shine a light on each person's personal needs and give them other options, because it's always the options that get you through situations. And then when you get through a situation, you realize, oh, I had other options, but it'd been better if I'd known about this before. And that's what experience is all about. And so we would be going through your own particular situation and your needs, and there's other ways of doing it. I know a lot of people think, well, we need guns. Okay, where I travel, most of the time I don't have guns. And a lot of times, especially lately, I've been going to places you can't even have a knife. And so you have to have other options. And we go through all this kind of stuff on the first half. And the first half of this get-together and taking care of personal needs. And then the second half will be a scenario, and I believe would be a realistic scenario. And we're going to go hour by hour on things happening. And when do you react? And if you do react, what are you going to do? And each person is different, same thing. And we're going to find out. We'll follow your reaction, and as a group, because we're all going to learn from your reaction. You're going to react. This is what you're going to do, and then what if this happens and this, and it's just going to be continuous until we get it finished up. Then that'll be and it's like I say, hour to hour, the first day. And then the second day, now you have time to stop and think and figure out, what's going on and what are your plans. And this will be the same thing. We'll have the second day, and then we do the third day. And each day is different because in an emergency, every hour evolves something different. Every day is something different. And then we'll go on like a week. And in a week, things will be even more different. And then you're going to have to be making decisions as we go along. And this is all your decisions are going to be based on your either experience that you've got or stories that you've heard, things that you've read. And this is what you're going to be going by. But what I want to do is give you more options, more realistic options that I've done, and explain the whole story that goes behind that option. Some of them worked, some of them didn't work. And like I say, a lot of it is personality and the situation. Because like I say, you got to remember, too, I'm normally in places that don't speak English. So that makes it a little trickier. So, and body language has a lot to do with it. That's why I've learned the art of body language, and I can use it in all different types of situations. And so we'll be covering everything that people want to know about, exactly what they want to know about. And like you say, there's a lot of things that I can't say. I don't put them on video. A lot of things I can't say on like seminars at the expo. But like I say, this would be considered a private meeting, and we're all just getting together, brainstorming, throwing out ideas, and this stuff. So we can pretty much say about anything. And does it apply to your abilities and your moral standing and stuff like that? This will give you a time to think about it and make a judgment and give you an option for if things don't quite turn out right. But I'm trying not to limit it to anything. I want to keep it pretty much open to everything. I'll be, like I say, the bribing. I'm going to show how to bribe, how to do it, and when to do it, who do you do it to. That makes a big difference. That will open doors or close doors. So you need to know exactly how it works. And we're going to go into a lot of detail. On the seminars, I've talked stories. I've told you stories about using them, but I didn't go into the exact detail on how to do it and what do you use. But I will in this particular setting, because like I say, we're keeping it small group where we can get different points of view and different situations and go into detail, break it apart, and find out exactly what it is. Throw it on the table. And it's not just me also. We're going to throw it on the table because we want everybody to get involved. And when there's a smaller group like that, they will get involved. And there's going to be people that disagree, and that's okay. Because like I say, we're running it just like you would on three-man militias. We need to know where everybody stands so we can make decisions based on what we feel is right, because we have a moral obligation, and we need to be able to stand behind that moral obligation, but you need to think about it ahead of time. And we're going to be doing a lot of that. And like I say, so the first half is, what are we going to do? And what do I need? And give me some examples and show me exactly how this is going to work. And then the second half will be putting it all comes together on the second half. And like I say, there's no limits. There's no limits. We'll be able to go from beginning to the end, and no problems at all. So, is there anything else? Are you still with us, or the show's all mine now?
Yeah, I'm yes.
Okay.
I'm still here. So,
okay.
So the class that we're talking about holding is bribing for your life. We used to call it how to negotiate for your life. But really what it is bribing to stay alive. Right? But that's what we used to call it, how to negotiate for your life. But really, it's how to bribe in that extreme situation where you're going to die. Okay? Yes, there'll be individual situations that we'll talk about. Yes, body language. And let me share something with you, class. And here's what you find out in these kinds of settings. I was absolutely frosted that people who were teaching concealed carry classes in Missouri, when you needed a concealed carry permit in order to carry your gun, not visible. Well, people were charging $150 per person, $125, and I was absolutely frosted. And I decided, all right, I'll just do it. So we charged $65. I found someone. I didn't get any money from this. I didn't profit from it. I didn't want to. But I found somebody who would do it for $65, one of our instructors. And we set up the largest class I believe ever held certainly in Springfield, Missouri. We had a lot of people in this class. And then we went, the class is divided into two sections. One, classroom learning, and then hands-on demonstration that you can shoot into the target with the appropriate number of rounds going into the kill zone of a target that is like the torso of a man, okay, literally. And that's required by the state, not by me, but by the state. Well, what we found out was that when we went on the firing line to qualify, to squeeze the trigger, not everybody could. Not everybody could muster the strength to pull back the trigger on a revolver. That was an eye-opener for a lot of people. A lot of people just couldn't do it. Now think about that. So people buy guns, I got a gun, I got it loaded, and I'll use it someday. And you find out you don't have the strength to squeeze the trigger. Class, the internet's a little unstable right now. We're seeing it while it's happening here on our screen at the farm in our broadcast studio. So we apologize for the delays in what's happening, but we're going to get through it. So I mentioned that we had this concealed carry class, and some people, to their own dismay, were shocked when they found out that they couldn't squeeze the trigger. Because if you're going to a concealed carry class, how would you ever think that, am I going to be able to pull this trigger? I don't know. Well, what they found out was they couldn't. Now, you may learn that you have limitations. We all have limitations, all of us. And you may learn that some of the limitations that you have may interfere with your survival. And you're going to learn that you need to overcome them. And that's one of the things you may uncover for yourself at the Mike Moss Seminar 2 weeks from now on October 26th, 5 to 9 p.m. in Springfield, Missouri. Location will be provided to those who want to attend. It will be a private training class, but you're invited. You're all invited. All you have to do is let me know that you're interested. And how do you do it? You send me an email, instructor@usaprepares.com, instructor@usaprepares.com, and you give us your name. We'd kind of like to have your real name. And your telephone number. We will have your email address when you send us the email, and we'll respond to you as to exactly where it's going to happen. And there will be dinner. The charge will be $50, 50, and it'll be at least 4 hours, at least. They always go longer. They always do. And you'll get your individual questions answered. And I'm not saying this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but it's close to that. Because Mike Ma's getting older. I'm getting older. I don't do very many of these anymore. Mike doesn't either. So this could be the last one. I'm not saying that, we're having a fire sale, but I am saying that they're going to be fewer and fewer over time. And if you want to meet Mike Ma, now's the time. Mike, do you think I embellished that at all, or do you think that's right on?
Yeah. No, I've noticed that you're right, as there's a point, I don't know where that point was, but as I get older, I've noticed I'm getting more secluded. It's not so much that I don't want to share, but I learn. I focus more on learning. I want to do more, and I've found there's so many in the United States. There's so many limitations on what you can do and how you can do it. That's one of the main reasons why I leave so much. But like I say, it's the options. You're saying you're limited, and we're all limited. That's why options are good, because this, going one-on-one with somebody twice your size may not be a good option. So what are some other options? And this is the kind of stuff, there's no limit on what we're going to work our way into, because there's no limit on what could happen. And that's what I'm saying. That's the same thing. I'm going to Thailand, from there, no telling where, and there's no limit on what's going to happen, and what's going to happen to me, where I'm going to be, how it's going to work out. And so, like I say, I'm fortunate that every day I'm real happy that I've got another day, and I'm either preparing for something or I'm doing it, one or the other. And this is, like I say, what we want to try to get across with everybody, because you are learning. Now, do you want to learn the football game? You want to learn that, or do you want to learn on skills, learning things? So it's your decision. That's called personal responsibility. And this is a good chance to open up your personal responsibility to all kinds of new ideas. There's going to be things that you didn't think applied to you, and you're going to hear it from somebody else, and you're going to think that's a good thing. That's what we're going to be working on. Everything.
When we come back from the bottom of the hour commercial announcements, I'm going to give you two things to think about. Two things that you probably never thought about that Mike Ma will teach you in the seminar. I guarantee you. So Mike Ma's with us, and this is this is part 4 of Mike Ma's training on air, 2-hour specials, 4th Friday in a row. Well, so here's the question, class. And I said, I don't think, or I guarantee you haven't thought about this. So you're in the kitchen, and you're cooking dinner. The family's there, and there's a knock on the door. What do you do? What do you do? Let's say you're by yourself, and there's a knock on the door. What do you do? How do you answer the door? What do you say? What don't you say? Do you answer the door? There are a lot of things to think about in that situation. Or you're in the kitchen and there's a knock on the front door. Or you're watching the boob tube and it's dark and it's Friday night, Saturday night, Bang, bang, bang on the door. What do? Do you look out the window first? Do you look out the window near the front door? Do you not answer the door? Well, you got the TV going, right? You can see the blue light through the windows. What do? So I'm pretty sure that that's one of the things that's going to be addressed during this training session. Okay, question number 2. Something you probably never thought of either. Now, many of you have been to gun shows. Many of you have been to gun stores. Many of you have handled guns. Many of you have, gone to the counter at the gun store and you're looking at the 45, the 9mm, the revolver, the 357, the 38 special, the snub nose, the air weight, all that stuff. You're looking at, maybe it should be a 22, maybe it should be, what should it be? Okay. How do you pick one? How do you pick one that's right for you? Some people like double stack 9mm. Lots of cartridges. Okay. But they're wide. The grip is wide. It may not fit everybody. How do you pick that handgun for you? And is it the same as the handgun for your spouse? What are the advantages of having the same handgun? What are the disadvantages? How does that work? These are some of the things I'm pretty sure will be included in the training that we're talking about. We're going to cut to the chase and give you the right answers. And how do I know these things? Because I know Mike Ma. And I've heard him teach. Not everybody, but some people. Not everybody knows how to pick a handgun. Not everybody knows how to answer the door. I do. He does. And I'm pretty sure he'll share that with you. And that's something that you need to know. Because think about it. The grid goes down, or you just have a small problem like Hurricane Michael, and your house is still standing, and there are people walking around, and they're hungry because the stores that they used to go to are gone. The cars that they used to drive are upside down. The gas station that they used to fill up at is gone. The electricity's down for 1,300,000 people. And you're one of the survivors, and your home is okay. It's on the outskirts. Somehow you managed to survive. And there's a knock on your door. What are you going to do? Mike, am I embellishing? Am I exaggerating? Am I saying things that we're not going to be talking about?
No, you're absolutely right. And to me, these are the basics. And this is what I try to push. I try to keep it basic and simple. If it's simple, you understand what it is, and if it's basic, it's something that you can do. It's not out of your limitations. And if you understand what's going on, it's a whole lot easier to get in good habits. And when you understand the basics, then you know what to look for. And just keep it simple. Always, always keep it simple. The Marines had a saying, KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. And you always want to keep things as simple as possible. And when I'm have an encounter, I know what their plans are. And my plan is to get them off of their plan. It doesn't make any difference what the situation is. If I let them go step by step what they normally do, I'm at the disadvantage. If I make them get off of what they're supposed to be doing, then they have to start thinking for themselves. Now, once they start thinking for themselves, then I've got the advantage then. Because routine, if you stay on routine, everything goes good. Get off routine, well, then things get kind of funny. And I'm outnumbered, outgunned. I can't let you stay on a routine. I got to get you off. an extreme example is on SWAT. One of the things that I did when I trained SWAT, I was the bad guy, and so they have to do whatever they do. They set me up with a scenario, and then I make the scenario happen, and then they go through their steps. They're trained already. They know what they're going to do. And then I end up dumping some dish soap all over the floor. Now, they know you kick the door, you go in, you do this, you do that. They know this. When they get to the door, they can't hardly stand up. So now the whole situation's changed. The step 1, step 2, step 3 is not going to work. Now they got to start thinking for themselves. And it gets really confusing. And then, like I say, that's an extreme, but it all works the same thing. No matter if you're at a checkpoint, if you're getting mugged, if they're going to, like you're talking about the answering your door, they know what they're going to do. So when things don't turn out like it always does, the neighbor down the street, it worked for them, and because they get in the habit. And then once they realize it's not going to work, well, then that kind of messes things up. So, but for you, it's the same thing. And that's why you want to keep it basic. Don't get some exotic tactics and exotic weapons and stuff like that. You want to be able to go with the flow. And you want to keep it very simple and stuff that you are capable of doing. Don't rely on the movie stuff. You have to be able to take personal responsibility. And to do that, it's saying that's where the morals comes in, because you have a moral obligation to defend yourself, defend your home, defend your family. And so that gives you the moral high ground. So already you have the advantage, but you've got to be able to do what you need to do. You can't try to go off in something you've never done before, like you were talking about pulling the trigger. Now you got to pull the trigger. You never thought about pulling the trigger before. This is why you go to the range, is you're getting familiar with the firearm. And really it's just target shooting. I have people say to me, they say, oh, well, you're some kind of martial artist. And so what kind of martial arts you know? I don't know any martial arts. Because when you put a name on the martial arts, it's a sport. And I don't do the sport. I do the real thing. So, and it's the same thing with the shooting. You can go to the range, but that is to get familiar with the firearm. I do Tai Chi. My body goes through the actions. So my body knows what to do. I just have to unleash it to the right person at the right time. And that's exactly what preparing is all about. People have a lot of the equipment, but they don't know how it works. If they're not familiar with that equipment, it's not going to do them any good. It's about like having, you have to have a radio. And if you have the radio and you don't have the batteries, so if you get a radio, with the shortwave and all this kind of stuff, and you don't know how it works, it's the same thing. You've got a piece of equipment that's above your limitations. So you have to be able to understand the basics, understand why and how they work, and understand that you have that moral obligation to make it work. And it's a lot easier to do it ahead of time, and that's where preparation comes from. We have to prepare, and when you prepare, a lot of the stuff applies to all different kinds of situations. And like I say, once you understand the basics, then you can move on to something else, and it'll come back to you, kind of like riding a bicycle. Once you learn it, it'll come back to you. Once you understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, then it'll come back to you when it's needed.
Okay, so let me give the class an example. So you're in the kitchen and 3 knocks on the door. And hear that. Now, obviously, the person knocking is in a hurry, right?
Yes.
Because the knocks became more fast and furious. Does that mean you're in a hurry now? Because the person knocking at your door is in a hurry? Does that mean that you just run and answer the door because they're in a hurry? Or do you do the prudent thing, take your time, because now you already were trained by Mike as to how to answer the door, and you make that preparation. It only takes a couple seconds, but you make that preparation. Now you're prepared to open that door. And they're not prepared for what you're going to do next. It's kind of a graphic example, but I think that's the way it is. Mike, would you agree that them being in a hurry, being in a hurry does not... Say that again?
You have more than one.
More than one door. Yeah. You can answer another door and get behind them. Think about that. How many of you thought about that? There you go. We'll be right back. Mike Miles with us, NoStressMike.com. Mike, I have been teaching three-man militia techniques, strategies, for a long time. And yesterday, there was a gal who came over to the farm, and she said, when I got a flat tire, I couldn't get the lug nuts off. And she was 75 years old. And I said, okay, well, let me get a breaker bar, and I'm going to show you how to do it. She said, I've got one of those cross wrenches shaped like an X or a cross, and I just couldn't do it. And I said, well, here's how you do it. So I showed her that, you can put on a breaker bar and you can pull up on it, but that's the hard way. But if you turn it 180 degrees so that you're unscrewing the lug nuts by pushing down, it's a lot easier. Okay. And I said, now, if that doesn't work, you can always step on it. Hold yourself so you don't fall, push on it with your foot, and you can loosen it that way. And I showed her how to do it, and she did it. I said, that's great. And I said, now, when we put lug nuts on a wheel, we put copper coat on them so that they don't stick. They're snug enough so they don't loosen, but yet you can get them off. And what happens with all the guys that tire change around our neck of the woods, except for us, they don't put any lubricant on them. So the ladies can't get their lug nuts off. So now we have to make sure that they all have breaker bars. And we're going to get them from Harbor Freight Tools and make sure they all have, half-inch drive, 18 or 24-inch breaker bars with a socket to loosen their lug nuts. So I was teaching that little class, but it wasn't a three-man militia. It was a two-man militia yesterday. And then today I found out I saw my truck go down the driveway. Our son hopped in my truck, and he was going to help another lady who was stuck. She had a flat tire down the road. She bought tires at Walmart. She drives on these rocky roads, and she got a flat tire and didn't know what to do. So we have a long way to go in teaching people all the things that they need to know in order to survive. But it starts slow, and it's building. And is that what you're seeing in your neck of the woods?
The United States has been getting so convenient anymore that you don't have to do hardly anything. Even look at the maintenance on a car. I mean, I got a new car, 06, and to me that's new. And I couldn't believe it. The light. First they told me, well, you wait 5,000 miles for an oil change. And I thought, what? That seemed like an awful long time. And then they said, well, don't worry about it because the light will come on and tell you when to do it, And so, they're taking that responsibility from you. And as a society, we have been gladly giving this up. And this is what's getting the government more of a foothold in our lives. I mean, people complain. Now I'm out here in the country, And there'd be people, these city folk will move out here, and then, well, there's junk over there in my neighbor's yard, and so then what they want to do is start some kind of regulations and stuff like that, and it's really none of their business when you're living out here in the country, and to you see it as junk. To me, it's I need it. And for some reason, I need it, whatever it is. Well, you've got trailers that just sit there, and when you finally need it, you need it. If you don't need it, well, then it sits there. No telling how long it's going to sit. And city folk look at a lot of this stuff as, trash. And it's like I say, it's good stuff. It just may not be what they consider good stuff. But like I say, they don't want to talk to me. They would rather call someone of authority or make some kind of regulation or something like that. So they don't want to, like I say, take the personal responsibility and get involved. And I've seen it all over. It's bad.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mike, I'm looking forward to having this class with you. Class, if you're interested, send me an email, instructor@usapreparedness.com. Please include your phone number so I can call you. It's not going anywhere. I'm not sending it to the government corporation. It's just for us, our little private meeting. Mike, Ma, me, and you. But we need at least 10, hopefully 25. Let me know, and I'll let you know. Thanks, Mike, Ma.
All righty. Thank you for having me.
Hey, can you come back next week?
Okay.